This is the theme to the podcast. It's inspired by an old TV theme. One of the best I'd ever seen. So here it is, the theme to the podcast. What does Chris think?
About the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's newest epic. I'm going to flip the script on this one and tell you my direct opinion first, then deep dive into some specific points and more detailed observations. To put it plainly, I enjoyed this movie a lot. It delivers on the high expectations set by all of Nolan's post-Dark Knight films. The cast each give memorable and believable performances, and to be honest, I had forgotten how much I love watching John Leguizamo act. I can find very little fault with the film overall. There are some incredibly dark scenes in terms of lighting, and the entire framing device used on Calypso's island to tell the bulk of the story feels a little rough at first. But as I'm thinking about it, I'm realizing that was probably intentional. Nolan has a way of making the viewer actually feel what the characters are feeling. While Odysseus is feeling time catch up to him, realizing that he's been trapped for a long time, the audience is also struggling to track the passage of time. Interesting. But anyway, with this film, Nolan continues to grow his already impressive filmography. I used to rank movies based on how much I would be willing to pay to go see them, and I think I might bring that back for the podcast. So this one is an opening weekend matinee, or a 9 out of 10. Now, on to the deeper conversations. The thing about tackling a classic like the Odyssey is that when you're dealing with the text that's over 2,700 years old, essentially the progenitor of Western epics, the margin for error is razor thin. If you follow the text word for word, it fails as a modern visual medium, and if you change too much, you ruin the soul. This version manages a brilliant balance. The adherence to the core source material is absolutely there. The themes of hospitality, temptation, and the sheer brutality of the ancient world aren't watered down. But at the same time, the deviations they do make actually serve the narrative. They've streamlined certain character arcs and shifted some of the perspectives in a way that makes the emotional beats hit a lot harder for a modern audience. It's a creative risk that genuinely paid off. Now, the production value is a massive part of the success. They didn't just throw a green screen behind some actors and call it Grease. You can feel the salt water and the grit and the physical sets. Everything is so real and lived in. And then the casting, of course, I mentioned, it's phenomenal. Almost every character with more than 3 lines is a household name, and they deliver. It's grounded in a way that keeps these larger-than-life mystical figures looking like real, breathing human beings, with real stakes rather than just actors playing dress-up in sandals. To understand why certain parts of the Odyssey feel the way they do, it helps to fall down the rabbit hole a little bit. If you've watched Dunkirk or Interstellar at home, you've probably found yourself frantically clutching for the remote control, trying to balance the sound mix, where the actors are mumbling like they have a mouthful of marbles for a second, and an engine roar is violently rattling your windows on the next. Now, that isn't a mistake or bad engineering. It's an artistic choice that Nolan defends aggressively. He treats dialogue as just another environment. That isn't a mistake or bad engineering. It's an artistic choice that Nolan defends aggressively. He treats dialogue as just another environmental sound effect, rather than a standalone piece of audio spoon-fed to the viewer. He also relies heavily on the shepherd tone. It's an auditory illusion consisting of overlapping octaves that sound like they are continuously ascending in pitch. However, they never reach a peak. It behaves a bit like a sonic barber pole. Listening to it forces a visceral, psychological panic response. Your brain keeps waiting for the pitch to resolve, for the musical hammer to drop, but it never does. It leaves your chest tight and your nerves frayed, which is precisely how the soldiers on a beach in 1940 or a sailor lost at sea would feel. The lighting operates under a similarly unyielding philosophy. Nolan is famously a film purist, preferring IMAX cameras and massive physical sets over digital environments. When he wants to convey scale or danger, he uses harsh, high-contrast lighting setups that can feel incredibly aggressive on a giant screen. Think about the stark, blinding whites of an ice planet on Interstellar, or the insane staccato flashes of lighting cutting through a pitch darkness during the atomic test sequence in Oppenheimer. It's a visceral style designed to overwhelm your pupils, forcing you literally to squint or turn away, just to shield your eyes. It's an exhausting way to experience a movie, and definitely draws its fair share of criticism from people who just want to hear what the characters are saying without getting a migraine. Now, that said, you have to respect the commitment. In an era where most blockbusters feel like they are polished by a corporate committee until they are completely smooth and frictionless, Nolan is just out there making massive, jagged pieces of art that deliberately leave you bruised. The Odyssey in that regard is no different. The sequences in the Cyclops Cave and the sacking of Troy are incredibly dark, making it kind of hard to follow some of the action. And as a storyteller, I can appreciate the effort and the deliberate artistic choice. But as a viewer, sometimes I just want to be able to watch the film and not have to live it. As a modern perspective of an ancient trial, ultimately, with each trial Odysseus goes through, he learns something about himself, or humanity, or the world as a whole. The temptation by Calypso was obviously a brutal one for him to overcome. Walking out of the theater, a friend and I were talking about the sequence. They joked that if they had been trapped on an island with Charlize Theron for 7 years, they might have forgotten Anne Hathaway was back home waiting too. Especially since Odysseus seemed to have struggled to conjure her face. It gave me a perfect opportunity to throw back to a concept that I mentioned in one of my podcasts. I told them Odysseus' mind may have forgotten her, but his heart had not. His agape overpowered his eros. We both had a very good laugh about that, but it's true. If you get a chance, go watch it. And if you can, see it in IMAX, as it's the first movie filmed entirely on IMAX cameras. But as for now, I'm Chris, and this is what I thought.